Hello there. Welcome to Sumit Academy. You are here because you dream to join the ranks of the administrators of our nation. Well, this is exactly what my channel attempts to do, to make you ready to face the challenge of one of the most challenging of all competitive exams. So, I do hope that you have subscribed to my channel. Do subscribe now so that you do not miss out on my previous or future videos. In this video, we shall talk about the role of media and social networking sites in internal security. If you have not done so, do see my video on information warfare also. It will help you in better understanding this subject. What is media? Any communication channel through which any kind of information, news, entertainment, education, data, promotional messages, etc. can be disseminated is called media. The word media is derived from the word medium, signifying mode or carrier. Media is intended to reach and address a large target group or audience. The word was first used in respect of books and newspapers, that is, print media. But with the advent of technology, media now encompasses television, movies, radio, and the internet. In today's world, media becomes as essential as our daily needs. It is the source of information for a society regarding any issue, be it local, regional, or global. People rely and even trust what is presented to them by media. Therefore, this dimension increases its significance as a vital sphere of influence with regards to both building confidence or promoting mistrust among people on issues related to national security. Significance of media can be witnessed at times of crisis at national level. It is evident that governments desperately need enhanced media support for projection of their clear stance and moral dominance. Regarded as the fourth estate, the immense power of media in creating popular mass images is used by all countries to offset their enemies and foes, both internally as well as externally. Increasingly, nation states and non-state political actors have recognized the immense power of media and its use for their objectives. Media and politics have a strong connection in the contemporary strategic environment. The earlier role of media as a source of information and communication between people and state and between states has been transformed and widened. Now, the political actors work in the environment shaped by the media. And on the basis of these perceptions, the political actors formulate policies, especially during situations of crisis or political changes, that is, elections. However, media can never be independent. Either it works under government pressure imposed through laws or under the influence of finances, as it has become a money-making industry. Let us now study the role of media in national security. The term national security has long been used by politicians as a symbolic phrase and by military leaders to describe a policy objective. Today, war is not only fought by the armed forces, but the whole nation is engaged in the economic, scientific, political, and social endeavors and production in all feasible fields. Thus, the role of media in war is not just to project the developing activities in a particular area, but to offer a comprehensive picture encompassing all aspects of the policies of the country. Media has a constructive role to play for society. Today, news channels and even some newspapers are mouthpieces of some social issues, which helps us to estimate the realities of life. Though media has played an important role in order to focus on the social issues in almost every era, it is a fact that in most of the eras, media were not being given free and fair chances to explore the issues of society more openly than it is being given now. What are the principles governing media? The experience of freedom of press with the British made our founding fathers realize its importance, and hence it was included in the Constitution in the form of freedom of speech and expression, as articulated in Article 19(1)(a). This freedom of speech and expression is not absolute but is limited by scenarios given in Article 19(2) of the Constitution. This article says that nothing in the freedom of speech and expression shall affect the operation of any existing law or prevent the state from making any law, insofar as such law imposes reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency, or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation, or incitement to an offense. For a country like India, the backbone of its democracy and the propagator of its national interests remains the access to information and expression, which helps its citizens to make responsible and objective choices, to promote accountability by its officials, to provide solutions to conflict resolution, and also to encourage diverse views of its diverse people. This access of information has, in turn, allowed the Indian media to play the role of the fourth estate and watchdog that holds the government accountable in all its activities, and also functions as the only mode of expression for its people. Abiding by the fundamentals enshrined by the architects of sovereign India through the years, the Indian media has been allowed to grow and transcend from an active disseminator of information to an omnipresent unit of the society. It has not only helped in building, shaping, or transforming an individual's perceptions, but has also been given the power to challenge the government, the judiciary, and other institutions of the country that form part of the larger policy making system. The increasing reach of regional and global communication systems and sophisticated technology has made media in India an autonomous tool of statecraft. The Indian media also continues to provide channels of communication, helping to educate, inform, and exchange information between the public and its government. Thus, the ability to influence the attitudes and behavior of countries and their policies has helped the government to initiate its national strategic goals through an integrated, coordinated, and combined media that acts as a tool and channel for information dissemination and enlightenment. What has been the role of Indian media in national security strategy? Well, India's media continues to remain unique because of the culturally diverse nature of the country. On the one hand, India is politically and technologically advanced, upholding its strength in economy, democracy, and culture. And on the other hand, the majority of India remains a developing country with strong religious and conservative patriarchal systems, isolated from ideologies and advancements of modern and technological life. The mainstream Indian media reflects the distinct differences of its people and thoughts by supporting and catering to two types of media outlets and audience: the English language media and the non English language media, including various newspapers, magazines, and television channels, thereby upholding the difference in expression and perspectives of its multicultural population and showcasing the true essence of India. You know, the capacity of the global media to transmit information and images throughout the world with uninterrupted speed, and the nature of communication today has transcended all boundaries to become transnational and international, thereby helping the state reach to its public, both domestic and foreign, and also become a lethal weapon against the enemy. As the world's largest democratic nation, this growth in information communication and technology, its effective use, and increasing economic and social development is encouraging the Indian media to pursue the role of an independent overseer. The Indian media's role in influencing national and international public opinion by analyzing and providing coverage of worldwide events has grown immensely due to the 24/7 concept. It has helped the media and journalists to play a greater role in influencing high level national and international decision making. The role of the media during war or crisis situations is being understood not only to protect the developing activities in a particular area, but to offer a comprehensive picture encompassing all policies of the state, helping the whole nation engage with the government and the military in the economic, scientific, political, and social aspects of policy making. The unique coverage and impact of the media can be accelerated to promote and expand security awareness among the people and used for morale building. In conflict, psychological operation is not the only function which the media can perform in the context of national security, but it also acts as a bridge between the government and the people. It thereby requires strategists to understand the behavioral pattern of the media and engage in its overall functioning. Let us now have a look at some of the new trends for national security and media. There has been a change in news reporting and information handling, with an increase in the media pressure on state to extract and attain information on security related issues of public relevance, mainly from the officials and the government. This has, in turn, had an impact upon national security decision making, depending on its relevance and sensitivity, and creating an impact that resonates with the public mood. Reports regarding national security have also forced the administration to react to the reports published in the newspaper or broadcast on the television channels, receiving positive or negative support by the media and the public, depending on the actions taken by the authorities. It has become important for the officials to provide information on national security to the media because, along with independent civil society actors, the media plays an important role in monitoring security institutions and helps to ensure their effective functioning and accountability to the public. They remain vital elements in shaping the public debate on security policy and decision making and help in educating the general public on national security and related policies. It therefore remains important to understand the media in a wider sociological environment and the power it possesses, as it can allow the policymaker and the strategist make much more informed decisions by including the media as a critical element of power. Also, the media, mainly the Indian media, must have an understanding of the strategic environment and vision of the executive and legislature and communicate it to the citizens and be able to contribute to the protection and promotion of the core ideals of our national security. However, in the context of India, there remains a lack of interest in the understanding of national security by the political community, and in turn, a lack of adequate interest by the media. Space on international relations, foreign policy, and national security has decreased in print media with the coming of entertainment news. No enlightenment on strategic issues and full hour-long expert discussions are presented on the television unless and until a crisis occurs, thereby bringing a discontinuity in analyzing any serious threats. News channels are also being privatized and mostly devoted to entertainment, thereby creating vacuum for the rural audience to connect with the government's policies. there are a limited number of magazines and journals on strategic issues and national security in India, which are not always available to the general audience due to inadequate readership. And most articles seem to be based on ideological orientation of the writer. The strategic community also lacks in understanding the media and cooperating with them on issues of national security relevance. In the Western countries, mainly the US, analytical newspaper articles on issues of national security are the result of intense interaction between journalists and officials in the government, as it is part of their effective governance to provide information to journalists for their own analysis and conclusions. A great challenge for the Indian media state relations remains to report conflicts in ways that prompt constructive public consideration of possibilities that avoid any violent reactions in times of crisis, mainly during reporting of terrorist activities. While implementing effective measures through the state, the media can help in provoking new ideas and approaches to problems by involving experts and strategists who can also help ensure factual and accurate reporting during crisis situations. The media in India has to develop standards of conduct in crisis coverage that include giving adequate attention to serious efforts taken by the government to diffuse and resolve the conflicts without exposing or compromising any sort of rescue operations. Remember, the live coverage of the 26/11 terror attacks adversely affected the efforts of the National Security Guard in their rescue attempt. And most important of all, there is a need for journalists to conceptualize and contextualize terrorism and present the issue before the public and help them deliberate with a better perspective. Whether or not the media can rightly be portrayed as entirely independent entities, their influence as a whole is enormous for any state, as the media's interpretive representation of violent events have a wide and powerful impact on the public. It becomes important to encourage the constructive use of the media to promote understanding, problem solving, and intergroup relations, even if the issues are not always under the heading of breaking news. In this contemporary situation, the journalists have also become political actors and are not restricted to only neutral observers. Interpretation and judgment have thus become inherent in all reporting on conflict. We now move on to a very interesting concept, the innovativeness of peace journalism. The reporting of any conflict restricts itself to the traditional coverage of wars and conflict, termed as war journalism. However contradictory, the study of peace journalism has only recently emerged and is a part of the larger framework of effective conflict reporting. Though redundant in Indian media, peace journalism is a fairer way to cover conflict, suggest ways to improve professional attitudes and performance, strengthen human, moral, and ethical values in the media, widen scholarly and professional media horizons and provide better public service from the media. For a country like India, which has a number of conflicts in its regional vicinity, the concept of peace journalism in media outlets helps utilize our soft power in countering a number of threats, including terrorism, and reach out to the domestic and international audience. The concept of peace journalism can help the media in serving its purported role of a watchdog, fourth estate, and public domain. The concept of peace journalism seeks to minimize the existing tensions between opposing parties in any conflict by not reporting facts that demonize or set the stage for a conflict. It frames stories based on insights of conflict analysis and transformation and helps connect the journalists, their sources, their stories, and the outcome of their reports. A number of Western media houses and centers have taken it upon themselves to initiate the concept of peace journalism and help in the transition to peace in the areas of conflict. As per this concept, a journalist should segregate parties in the conflict into smaller groups, pursuing many goals for creative potential outcomes. Highlight the behavior of the groups, create an impact of the conflict in future, and also on people and places around it, linking its consequences. Understanding the long term consequences of the conflict on the people and the state, connect to the people on the ground and how they view the conflict and what they want changed, helping empower parties to articulate their goals and make creative outcomes. Try revealing areas that are common for both the state and the complainants and suggest some goals that may be compatible. Minimize reporting on who started a conflict but how problems are leading to several consequences. Less focus on punishing the accused but provide grievances of both sides. Less use of victimizing language which may limit the option for change. Avoid imprecise use of emotive words to describe events and people. Avoid demonizing adjectives that signify brutality and barbaric nature. Avoid labeling people as terrorists or fanatics. Avoid concentrating on human rights abuses by only one side, but name all wrongdoers. Avoid making opinion or claim as an established fact, but tell that ceasefire may not necessarily mean peace. Assign grounds to resolve the conflict further and pick up and explore any peace initiatives and assess peace perspectives. Through peace journalism, the agenda of the media can be to promote peace. And if the framing is done to achieve rapprochement, then public opinion can be shaped towards resolution or perception management of any conflict. So, how do we train journalists for the strategic environment? The Indian media needs to be acutely aware and insightful about national security issues that it is covering and the interlinkages that shape the dynamics of the conflict. The media needs to develop a comprehensive understanding of the imperatives of strategic concerns of India while covering issues of national security relevance. Media censorship and voluntary self-restraint also helps in effectively covering national security issues. It is also necessary for the media to make a platform for the public to debate on national security issues. In a complex world where information can influence a large section of society, religiously divisive speech by fundamentalists, encouragement of violence, and violation of cultural norms by terrorists needs regulatory steps by both the media and the government. The media has a potential for reducing tensions between countries, and they can be used to improve understanding. Finally, we must understand that the continuously changing styles of warfare are forcing the media around the world to change and adapt accordingly. Warfare now is not restricted to the traditional warfare between nations, but is a violent conflict among people within common borders, often between communities and tribes and other interests. In such a scenario, the news media, with its new technologies and wider reach, is increasingly the target for misinformation, manipulation, or separation by interests seeking to profit from the violent conflict, including terrorism. Journalists are increasingly being targeted by the anti national activities because of the media's potential to influence the course of conflict resolution. However, one must also understand that the prevalent type of journalism in India was restricted to traditional journalism, which does not include the study of covering such violent conflicts as a social process. The media was only a reliable provider of information and was not allowed to advocate any analysis or techniques for peaceful transition. The news media's traditional role was often said to be to serve the public interest by being a reliable information provider, a forum for free speech, a watchdog of the government to provide credibility and influence in informing people who are to make changes themselves towards peaceful resolution of their conflicts. The Indian media and the government needs to develop a common understanding of our core values and national interests, which focus around the preservation and strengthening of the core values of the nation and the understanding, pursuit, and protection of these interests. We can finally conclude that information is the currency of power and media plays an important role as a soft power, especially for a country like India with a large population and capacity in communication and technology. The media, like economy, technology, and manpower, is one of the tools for India to compete in the globalized structure of power play. The largest democracy with a free and multilingual press can effectively be part of this power play by restraining its constant negative judgment of the inward focused Indian media and providing adequate space for its information resource to be developed and utilized effectively in the overall national security strategy. We now come to the second part of this video, and that is the role of social media and its impact on internal security. The term social media refers to internet based applications that enable people to communicate and share resources and information. Social media can be accessed by computer, smartphones, and mobile phone text messaging (SMS). To give an idea of the numbers, there are more than 110 million blogs, an estimated 100 million videos a day being watched on the video sharing website YouTube, and more than 130 million users on the social network Facebook. A social networking service is an online platform that is used by people to build social networks or social relations with other people who share similar personal or career interests, activities, backgrounds, or real life connections. While social networking has gone on almost as long as societies themselves have existed, the unparalleled potential of the web to facilitate such connections is only now being fully recognized and exploited. Social computing is not a fad, nor is it something that will pass us by. Gradually, it will impact almost every role at every kind of organization in all parts of the world. Alternatively referred to as a virtual community or profile sites, a social network is a website that brings people together to talk, share ideas and interests, or make new friends. Based on the 6 degrees of separation concept, social networking establishes interconnected online communities that help people make contacts that would be good for them to know, but that they would be unlikely to have met otherwise. Now, what does this term 6 degrees of separation mean? The theory of 6 degrees of separation contends that because we are all linked by chains of acquaintance, one is just 6 or less introductions away from any other person on the planet. A degree of separation is a measure of social distance between people. You are 1 degree away from everyone you know, 2 degrees away from everyone they know, and so on. Depending on the social media platform, members may be able to contact any other member. In other cases, members can contact anyone they have a connection to, and subsequently anyone that contact has a connection to, and so on. Some services require members to have a pre-existing connection to contact other members. Social networking is also a significant target area for marketers. This type of collaboration and sharing of data is referred to as social media. Unlike traditional media that is often created by a few people, social media sites contain content that has been created by hundreds or even millions of different people. The variety of standalone and built-in social networking services available online challenges definition, but there are some common features. First, social networking services are interactive internet-based applications. Second, user-generated content such as text posts, digital photos and videos, tagging, and online comments are the lifeblood of these social networking sites. Third, users create service specific user profiles about themselves for the site or app that are designed and maintained by the networking organization. Fourth, social networking services facilitate the development of online social networks by connecting a user's profile with those of other individuals and groups who share similar interests or beliefs. Fifth, most social network services are web based and provide means for users to interact over the internet, such as by email and instant messaging and online forums. Sixth, social networking sites are varied and they incorporate availability on desktop and laptops, mobile devices such as tablet computers and smartphones, digital photo or video sharing, and web logging diary entries online, called blogging. Seventh, while in person social networking, such as gathering in a market to talk about events, have existed since the earliest development of towns, the web enables people to connect with others who live in different locations, ranges from across a city to across a world. Eighth, members can contact anyone they have a connection to, and subsequently anyone that contact has a connection to, and so on. LinkedIn, a career social networking service, generally requires that a member personally know another member in real life before they contact them online. Ninth, the main types of social networking services are those that contain category places, such as former school year or classmates, means to connect with friends, usually with self description pages, and a recommendation system linked to trust. 10th, social network services can be split into three types. The first is socializing social network sites, which are primarily for socializing with existing friends. For example, Facebook. The second is networking social network services, which are primarily for non social interpersonal communication. For example, LinkedIn. And thirdly, social navigation social network services, which are primarily for helping users to find specific information or resources. For example, Goodreads for books. Many organizations have embraced social media to such a degree that they seek to implement a social networking platform of their own. These internal social networks are accessible only to employees and include message boards, profile pages, file sharing software, and private communication applications, not different from a public social media system. Internal social networks offer numerous benefits. They allow for quick, fluid, and constant communication, thereby making it easier for employees to synchronize at all times. They encourage feedback, proposals, and ideas from workers, thus opening the door for innovation in any shape or form. They also participate well with cloud computing platforms and allow files to be shared and transmitted in a secure manner. However, like everything else in life, this too has a number of problems. Social media is more democratic than electronic or print media because of its interactive nature and less gatekeeping. The power of the individual to create and transmit content over social networking sites empowers the ordinary citizen. The growing voice of the marginalized sections having access to internet through these sites has led to governments asking for greater control and scrutiny, as many social networking sites are being used to transmit hate speech. The addictive nature of social networking sites are also adding to the problem. Most of the activity that happens on a Facebook page is self promotion, sharing of thoughts, and liking content posted by friends. Many of the pages shared are meaningless, and much of the conversation is not of high social value. There is peer politics in Facebook, targeting individuals, which has psychological consequences. Social networking is good when its true essence can be derived. Unfortunately, true essence is an elusive term, and government control can make things even worse. And obviously, it poses a security challenge too. New entrants to the global workforce are posing increasing security challenges to their employers as they mix personal and private lives. Nowhere is this more evident than in the use of social media, often accompanied by a low regard or even total disregard for privacy concerns. Most people believe the age of privacy is now over and are apparently unconcerned about the data that is captured about them. This attitude is at odds with organizational concerns about the disclosure of sensitive information through social media to potentially millions of Twitter and Facebook users. This has led to concerns about privacy linked to security and is driving proposals for cybersecurity directives that link privacy and security, especially where data breaches are concerned. The ability of individuals to share information with an audience of millions is at the heart of the particular challenge that social media presents. In addition to giving anyone the power to disseminate sensitive information, social media also gives the same power to spread false information, which can be just as damaging. This is one of the main reasons that the Indian Army, Navy, and the Indian Air Force have now mandated that their personnel may not be on Facebook and are not to be part of any group on WhatsApp. The rapid spread of false information through social media is among the emerging risks identified by the World Economic Forum in its Global Risks 2013 report. The report's authors draw the analogy of shouting fire in a crowded cinema. Within minutes, people can be trampled to death before a correction can be made to the message. There have been several incidents where false information transmitted on the internet has had serious consequences. For example, a fake tweet by someone impersonating the Russian interior minister claiming that the Syrian president had been killed or injured caused crude prices to rise by over $1 before traders realized the news was false. So the next time you get such a message, do know that you are being made to use a new term, webqoof. In fact, an online news platform has a site called The Quint, which is just such a platform for you to fast check the truth of such social media forwards. It is not just we who love social platforms. Cyber criminals are fond of them too. As internet is growing explosively, online criminals try to present fraudulent plans in many ways. The fact that terrorists can now easily hook up to communicate via Facebook and WhatsApp does pose a serious risk to a nation's security. Social media is used by terrorist organizations as a tool for ideological radicalization, recruitment, communication, and training. In addition, terrorist groups take advantage of it to communicate with cybercrime organizations and to coordinate along with them for fundraising activities from illicit activities carried out in part drug smuggling, gun running, or completely, for example, phishing on the internet. Cyber terrorism is growing at an alarming rate due to dependency of nations and critical infrastructure on computer networks for their procedures. Today, terrorists select cyber terrorism as a practical alternative to disturb the functioning of nations and other business activities, as this technique has the potential to cause huge damage. It has been observed that Twitter too is being used for instigating riots and for negative publicity. Organized criminal groups have found in social networks a forum to position themselves in the popular culture as an alternative lifestyle. The internet has become the platform of organized criminal groups to improve their power and profits with impunity. The link between organized crime and terrorist organizations is increasing considerably in the cyber world. And this coalition will be able to produce new offensive technologies. To date, the terrorist groups which make the most substantial use of social media for their own purposes are the Islamic jihadist ones. Facebook and YouTube channels are often used by them for recruiting and increasing the number of sympathizers and jihad supporters, especially in the West. For example, spreading photos and videos of successful terrorist attacks, publishing lists and biographies of so called Islamic terrorist martyrs, preaching or ideological texts. Future conflicts will occur in more and more connected environments, which will be characterized by the use of new communication and information technologies, social media included. Social media is now ready to be employed more and more frequently to accompany traditional offensive means. In particular, the use of social media during a conflict adds to the employment of other mass media, newspapers, TV, and radio for propaganda, influence, and deception activities. Since open source material is sparse, it is not possible to investigate cases of military campaigns conducted with an actual employment of social media in support of military operations. Nevertheless, it is useful to briefly mention the conflicts between Israel and Lebanon. During the Second Israeli-Lebanese War in 2006, Hezbollah carried out several information warfare activities thanks to the use of social media. During the conflict, they published several videos and photos on blogs, social networking sites, and YouTube to foster their own image and decry Israel and their security services. Further, Hezbollah managed to instill a perception of failure in the Israeli political military establishment, which conditioned the course of the conflict. Iranian signal intelligence professionals tracked signals coming from personal cell phones of Israeli soldiers to identify assembly points of Israeli troops, which may have telegraphed the points of offensive thrusts into Lebanon. This is just one example of low end cyber warfare that can be as deadly as software bombs designed to infiltrate an enemy's most heavily defended networks. During the next following war, 2008 to 2009, Israel showed a much more effective management of social media, employing them in information and counter information campaigns. On the other hand, social media is becoming a key information source for the public when violent terror acts occur. It is changing the speed of how the public learns about terrorist attacks and the way they react. The first information to the public about incidents is now likely to come through social media channels such as Twitter rather than through traditional news outlets. The use of social media in India was first highlighted during the 2008 Mumbai attacks, when Twitter and Flickr became the media through which much information about the attacks reached the Indians and the outside world. A new way of crisis reporting emerged when Western journalists mined Twitter posts by people in Mumbai for details on attacks. Social media is increasingly important in influencing the public's understanding of such attacks and what happens in the aftermath. It has implications for the first response by police to such attacks, with witnesses tweeting directly from the scene. There are important lessons for the police and authorities in terms of taking the heat out of a tense situation and reducing the opportunities for secondary crimes. For example, hate crimes and public order incidents in different towns and cities across the country. A downside of this is also that the community impacts of terrorist attacks are more widespread and longer lasting. On the commercial side, social media sites generate revenue with targeted advertising based on personal information. They encourage registered users to provide as much information as possible. With limited government oversight, almost non existent industry standards, and no incentives to educate users on security, privacy, and identity protection, users are exposed to identity theft and fraud. These platforms have huge confidential user information and are vulnerable to outside or inside attack. How is social media different from traditional media? Well, first, it rapidly passes information to its users, providing real time communication. This passes far and wide within a very short time, and its impact is much greater than traditional print and electronic media or the telephone, post, or face to face communication. Second, traditional print and electronic media are controlled by big media houses. They exercise their monopoly by influencing the masses as per the agenda of their owners or financiers. But social media is in the hands of the people and cannot be controlled by any group. Third, social media has ensured greater transparency in the traditional media too, and many electronic and print media are now available on social media. Fourth, while traditional media is a one-way communication, social media allows participatory discussion. It has developed a culture of debate that is the most important requirement for strengthening any democracy. Fifth, anti-social and anti-national elements have already started using social media to spread misinformation regarding riots and inciting communal violence. To summarize the subject, we can say that since the number of internet users in the world is growing, the number of social media users is also on the increase. Social networking sites ease quick spread of information amongst the public and enable users to exchange ideas, post updates and comments, or partake in activities and events while sharing their interests. From general chit chat to propagating breaking news, from scheduling a date to following election results, or coordinating disaster response, from gentle humor to serious research, social networks are now used for a host of different reasons by various user communities. At the same time, social networking sites make secret information all the more insecure, while being a real threat in the hands of criminals and terrorists, and state and non state actors. The use of social media has become an important component of the ever more interconnected world in which we now live. The use of social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn can provide organizations with new and innovative ways in which to engage with their staff. However, this highly dynamic and end user focused environment also brings with it a number of security concerns. The data held within social media can provide an attacker with a wealth of information about the internal workings of an organization, including detail on roles and responsibilities, projects and relationships, and expose information about internal IT systems, including the ability to identify security vulnerabilities. This information can provide a valuable insight into an organization and increase the likelihood of a successful social engineering attack or even a direct attack against systems. Social media offers the ability for both government and other organizations to spread messages in real time to a much wider audience and promotes a two-way interactive dialogue between the end user and the government or organization. However, the government and organizations need to understand both the positive and negative impact that social media can have on their image and manage this channel of communication effectively. This will enable them to avoid potentially damaging stories. Without doubt, the use of social media provides a new avenue for organizations to exploit, but at the same time introduces fresh and potentially serious threats. Government and organizations should have appropriate policies and procedures in place, such as an effective use policy, training, and awareness for social media and a social media handling policy. This will ensure that they are able to explore this opportunity without unduly exposing themselves to new threats and associated risks. Well, that's all from me in this video. This video is based on the information freely available. No originality is claimed for the same. The intention of this video is only to prepare candidates for answering examination questions on the subject. Do like this video and do subscribe to my channel now so that you do not miss out on my previous or future videos. And if you want to drop me a line, you can reach me at sumitacademy20@gmail.com. Till later then, cheerio.